Hey everyone, I told you to pretend we're live already. Welcome to a brand new SPSM Chat, SPSM Suicide Prevention Social Media. I'm Rudy Caceres, at Rudy Caceres on Twitter, and we're talking about work, because work sucks, and it makes people kill themselves. So, our guest today, I like to think that we have a special guest today, and that is Marie Shanley Mxiety. She's going to bring herself on and tell about all the cool things that she's doing. So before we get to that, I want to lay the groundwork, everyone. So I'm going to make sure that everyone knows their order before we start going. Okay, so here's how it's going to go. We'll start with Joelle, and then Hudson, and if Danielle Glitz decides to join us, she will be last, and then we'll go to Marie. And then when we go to questions, we'll kind of flip it around and then start with Marie and then end with Danielle or Hudson if Danielle. I know it sounds really complicated for everyone out there in social media land. If you're watching this live, please let us know that you're here. Let us know that you care by using that hashtag SPSM. Thank you all. I appreciate you all. From Twitter, from Facebook, we are at facebook.com/SPSM Chat, of course. Hello, everyone out there. We are also on youtube.com/SPSM Chat, where you can easily watch all past episodes. Mixer.com/SPSM Chat. So hello to all of you out there. Give a shout out, especially if you're here for Marie. I hope you're showing some love to her because she deserves it. And without further ado, let's get right into it. Let's go to our first co-host, Joelle.
Hi, what am I doing? Introducing myself? Because you didn't really say that.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, I'm Joelle Marie. I am a peer specialist by training. I'm also kind of a mental health consultant. I am I'm a co-host of this chat. I have a puppy, I'm sorry. And yeah, I can totally relate to how work can be extremely distressful and like the pressure of productivity. Okay.
Yes, smash that heart button if work makes you want to die out there in social media land.
Wow.
Hi, everybody.
Smash that heart button if you also just want to hear Rudy talk more about suicide prevention and social media. My name is Hudson Harris. I am
in that order.
What was that?
In that order.
In that order, please. My name is Hudson Harris. I am a behavioral health system designer. I have been chronically overworked and am just now coming back online after almost 11 months of not downtime. I still did some work, but not full-time balls to the wall. So I'm very excited about tonight. I'm very excited to talk about Marie Mxiety, how much I love her, how amazing she is, and how much I'll miss her.
Ew, gross.
Yeah. And this feels kind of weird because I haven't done this in a while, but tell the whole world, the whole SPSM Chat universe, galaxy, so multiverse. We're multiversing here and multi-streaming. Who is Marie Shanley?
Hi everyone. Thank you. DJ Mxiety. Hi everyone. My name is Mxiety, and I'm a mental health talk show host on Mixer. I also post stuff on Twitter and YouTube and have a blog, which turned into a book. But my whole shtick is bridging the gap between professionals and those looking for mental health information. So I do that by interviewing folks who are mental health professionals or those willing to share their story about what it's like to live with certain conditions. Wednesdays, we have open discussion, and Thursdays, we have game nights. So we play video games and still talk about mental health. But we talk about everything and anything because everything and anything involves mental health. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, come on by. I've been doing this for 2.5 years. I'm also a certified yoga instructor. I am not in any way a mental health professional other than I have mental health first aid certifications, and I'm an ambassador for several mental health charities. That sounds like a lot when I'm saying it all together. I swear I don't do it all at once.
Yes, you do. That's why we're so proud of you.
But I have been overworked, literally to the point where I had to leave a job because I had a panic attack at work, and that's what started anxiety. So when asked, hey, what should we do to kind of see you out? I was like, you know what? That is exactly the kind of thing that we should talk about. It's the reason that I have to, unfortunately, not be as present in SPSM is because I'm trying not to overwork myself to death, because I don't know how to say no. And I remember how that ended last time. So I'm trying to avoid that. And I'm very excited to talk about all of that and more and answer all your questions. So AMA!
Yay, adult decisions!
So I promised, I give my word that I'm not going to make this a big deal about you leaving. I'm not going to give you any compliments at all, Marie. So
Good.
we're going to get right into the swing of things. Hopefully Danielle, if she's able to, Danielle Glick, one of our other co-hosts, if she's able to join us, she'll come right in because we love her and we miss her. So we want to make sure she's here for this special episode. So we've got a few minutes ahead of time, but you know what? We always end up like having to rush towards the end anyway. So question number 1, and it's a doozy. Just kidding. It's not, but it's a good one though. And that is, let's put the screen just on me. What are the mental health consequences of pushing yourself too hard at work? Emphasis on too hard. Go. Answer this, Marie.
So the biggest one is, of course, burnout. And I think there's this idea that people go in thinking I'm not working enough, I'm not doing enough, especially us lovely type A kind of people. And so you end up with this notion that the more I work, the better I am, the longer hours I work, the more I'm showing up, the more the bosses see me. And all of those ideas kind of don't actually make you productive. They give you this false sense of you're there, but you're not really accomplishing much. But you're there, and it is the main notion, I think, that we all have socially, that the more you're there, like your bosses have the same expectation of you, right? The more you're there, that means you must be so dedicated and really, really working hard and burning the midnight oil and all that. And so burnout is probably the biggest consequence that I would talk about. And in general, just this notion of the false notion that we have of security of, well, I'm here and I'm working and I'm at my desk or I'm present at my work computer. So I am accomplishing things and I am good. And if I take a break, I'm taking away from that. I'm literally taking out of one thing and putting it into, and putting it to myself, my selfish self that doesn't want to work, that is secretly super, super lazy and just wants to sit around and do nothing. And that's it. There's this notion that like we're constantly fighting between those two. Like, oh man, I just want to be lazy, but I guess I have to work. But that's the opposite of what's actually going on. That's all. Yeah.
What say you, Joelle?
Okay, what are the mental health consequences of pushing yourself too hard at work? Well, for me, it was something like burnout. OCD tends to get in the way of a lot of things that I've tried to do for work, and sometimes it doesn't. But it definitely led to burnout, panic attack. I've not gotten rehired because of this sense of work, push yourself hard. And this feeling that I always wasn't doing enough, and that ended up affecting my quality of work. It can be physical health effects. It can definitely be feelings of alienation, feelings of not being good enough, because if you're constantly pushing yourself, but you're not getting any increased benefit from it, or you don't see any increased benefit from it, you're going to keep pushing yourself until you are praised or until you get a raise. But a lot of times you don't get a raise for doing more work. You're just told, yeah, you're doing more work. Yeah.
Hudson, unmute.
Yes. I'd say from a personal perspective, I think the impacts are pretty intense. For me, it ranged from anxiety, depression, sleeplessness, I think it's something like 60% of males have pain-referred depression. So when their depression gets bad, they feel pain. The numbers are far less in women. For me, it was a lot of pain-referred depression, and was bad enough at one point that they wanted to fuse vertebrae in my back because I was in that much pain and was not able to sleep, was not able to do stuff. I think that's the thing that we do. I think Mxiety really hit the nail on the head. It's this drive to always do more, like what Joelle said, just like show up more, and like, but it doesn't work. Like, I mean, not only does it not work for us, like it doesn't work for productivity. Like none of the research supports that working harder actually makes you more productive. Quite the opposite. So that's really where mine came in, was anxiety, depression, and sleeplessness. I mean, all the other attendant things that come with that. I'd also say it gets really hard when you're working too much to really have a firm grasp sometimes on reality and like what's real or what's not, because as your sleep bank goes down, and as your work and stress goes up, your ability to really feel and have a good radar and a sense of what's happening diminishes. So it's bad. Okay, like we got to stop it.
I didn't realize that we're supposed to give personal. It makes sense. I'm not good at being a guest, y'all, but I have a personal story about burnout. Is that what I was supposed to do? Are we over time now?
You guys kind of covered the bases, though. You like said all of the good stuff, so I'm like, I'll just share mine. Like,
well, I just talked about it generally. I didn't talk about
my transition.
Well, we've got 8 minutes to fill, so go, Marie.
We have 8 minutes to fill.
Wow, you're such a romantic.
Yeah, that's. Hey, you're here. Fill the time. What are we not paying you for?
I pay you in different ways.
So what ended up happening? The literal consequence of my overworking. So I was in one company. And I was like, hey, I'm not doing the job that I dreamt of doing. I always dreamt of being a project manager. Like that's the job that I saw for myself. I kind of carved it out, and I went to my boss and I said, hey, I've basically been doing this role and kind of doing 2 jobs at the same time, but doing this role that I really want to get into. So do you think we could talk about that and hear the cost benefits? And they're like, no, we need you to do what you're doing and sit there at the desk and push that pencil. And so I was like, I know what I'll do. I'll go join a startup like all the other spiffy millennials, and I'll really show them that I'm the best gosh darn project manager. So I joined.
Yeah, you will.
So I didn't. I didn't. So I joined a startup. It was an advertising company in New York City. So like top notch, all millennial stuff. The only thing, we never had a ping pong table, unfortunately, in the office. But yeah, so it was the kind of office where you had all your food taken care of, and they took you out for like drinks and dinners and stuff. And so I'm working, and I'm recognizing eventually that. So I also live in New Jersey, so I would wake up at 6 a.m., commute into the city, be in the city from 9 to 6, and those were minimum hours. So 9 to 6. And then I wouldn't get home until like 7:30. And then I would go to yoga, and then I would go to sleep at 9 o'clock. And then I would rinse and repeat that 5 days a week. And I was like, this is fine. This is totally. And then, you stay up later if you have to go out for drinks and stuff, which I didn't normally do and wasn't comfortable doing, but you got to do it because you're part of the team and all those things. So what ended up happening is I started experiencing, really, my depression came back. I had depression, a big depressive episode before. And I felt it coming back, and I did the thing that you're not supposed to do, but I thought that I'm special, so I would be fine, where I started feeling like life was hopeless and I had nothing going for me, and I was a piece of trash and I wasn't doing enough. But I was like, this is fine. This is fine. I went over to them and I was like, do we have time for me to go to a therapist? And they're like, no. Well, I was like, okay, so this is fine. I'll just shove this really, really deep into my soul, and that will fix the problem. And yeah, because I could only see my therapist during weekdays. And so then I kept doing that. And then I started having like these mini breakdowns at work where I would go into the bathroom and cry and then rinse and repeat. And it's fine. Nobody knows. You just cry a little bit, you dry your tears, and you're fine. Again, all of this not fine. I want to make that very clear. I'm very sarcastic. But so then somebody gave me a criticism, which was, I think it was even valid at the time. Like I remember acknowledging like, that's a valid criticism. And I burst into tears and started hyperventilating in front of them. And I was very lucky that my boss at the time actually had experienced panic attacks herself, and she knew what to do. And she took me out of the room, and she like had me breathe with her. And she was just like the best trooper. And HR came up to me and they're like, yeah, I don't think you can work while you feel this way. So we got to talk about how you could, how do we mutually make this okay? And so I had to leave work and I had to go home to my husband. And I'm sure other people have experienced this, where you have to go to your husband or spouse and be like, hey, so I'm a total fuck up. My mental health made me lose my job that I fought tooth and nail for. Remember how I really, really wanted it? Yeah. So this happened at work, and he was surprisingly supportive. And I basically had to like sit down with myself and be like, okay, so I could either, I think this is it, because I feel like I have no purpose in the world. So either I make something out of this, I make something positive out of this, or I guess I'm on my way out. And that was kind of the third time that I'd like felt really suicidal in my life. And so guys, kids, don't overwork yourselves. And if you feel like you're starting to burn out, and if you feel like stuffing down your emotions very, very deep inside does not work, they come out in different ways when they feel like it.
Marie, can I say, so my big one, I was literally working on a burnout prevention program, designing one for a medical school. So for those of you who don't know, doctors and residents have terrible mental health. Roughly two, the equivalent of 2 medical school classes every year die by suicide in doctors. So I was literally helping build programs for what I called high risk, low utilization, high performers. Okay. Not at all seeing that like, oh, hey, maybe some of these signs that I'm literally exhibiting right here are also what I'm including here. And like my stutter step, I still remember I was at the YMCA and I was watching Mr. Robot. And I don't even remember what the scene was, but for those of you who haven't seen it, like it's this guy and he's got, he has like 2 different sides of himself and he doesn't remember stuff. There was something that triggered where I was like, oh my God, I'm being gaslit. And like, I was, but like, it made me feel like disassociate. And like, I almost like fell off the elliptical. Like it was crazy. It's so weird. Like, it's like, we are literally in this field and I love everyone here and everyone listening. And I can almost guarantee that I know all other 3 of you are overworking and overstretching yourself every single day. Yeah. I'm looking at you, Joelle. I'm looking at you, Rudy. Wait,
I don't do shit mostly.
My fingers are
Oh, okay. Okay.
I work very, very hard to have enough time to do Animal Crossing and painting and things like that. But it's hard. It's hard to sit there and be like, this is fine.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of fine, let me give some shout outs to the people on social media real quick. Hey, Janine, how are you doing? Still devastated that I cannot see you. Wasn't able to see you in person at AAS, but I hope you enjoyed the conference anyway. Go check out her. Oh. And I see the social work students on Twitter as well. Please keep tweeting away out there. And anyone else who's joining us on Twitter, hello as well. Just make sure to use the hashtag SPSM and respond to all the questions. Respond A1 to Q1, so on and so forth. How's it going on Mixer? Anything going on Mixer, Marie?
Nothing in particular. Somebody stopped, Moopaloo stopped watching Mr. Robot because it got pretty dark and a bit. Okay, all right, guys, that still counts. I said no gushing. That's weird. I don't know how to react to it. I know you're not saying it still counts. That's weird.
Okay, but what about this one? This one's okay, right?
Oh my God.
I have no say in this.
How far does our rating go?
So what did Moopaloo say?
I thought that one was bad.
No, it's really cute, guys. It's really. I don't want to sound like an ungrateful asshole. That's really.
No,
cute.
it's all right.
Yeah, I do want to say about Mixer, Marie. I don't know. Are you looking at just your stream or is it combined on Mixer? You and me?
Yeah, I'm looking at the SPSM chat. So people are just ping pong tables are overrated. We got from Whitey Gamer. Yeah.
I just wanted to say I apologize to the people. It's only been like 2 or 3 like the past couple of weeks because Marie wasn't on. I was like, oh, no one's going to watch us on Mixer. And then people were commenting and asking questions and I felt so bad. So my apologies there, all there in Mixer. We will show you some more love in the very near future. Hey, I might show up and play some Animal Crossing myself on Mixer. I did it on the Mighty and it wasn't a complete failure. So
it wouldn't be because you're wonderful. And Mupalu's I'm not going to read. So we have a room in our Discord specifically that's called "Just Take the Compliment."
Yes.
And the rule in that room is that you cannot do anything to minimize a compliment somebody gave you. So you can't say like, "Oh, that's nothing," or "Well, I didn't really blank blank blank." You just have to accept the compliment and say thank you. And you cannot compliment back because you feel guilty. You can't do that either. So Mupalu recently wrote a comment in there. I'm not reading it out loud. I did read it and I responded to it.
All in favor of Marie reading out Mupalu's comment? Boop.
No. Oh, you're all by yourself. Oh, so sad.
Well, raise your hand. Rudy, raise your hand.
Speaking of sad, let's get on to question number 2. And that would be, how can being overworked lead to suicidal intensity? Take it away, Marie.
Yeah, so I guess the continuation of the wonderful story that I was just telling is that was it. It was my career was so important to me. I had fought tooth and nail to become a project manager. And how could I have been so weak and stupid that I couldn't handle my mental health and couldn't just figure it out enough to be able to continue that job? Well, that's it. That's the end of the line. Before that, I was suicidal because I had a job in which I had literally there was no job description. Every day they just gave me something to do. And some days it would be like, fill out this Excel spreadsheet with names of people we talked to before. And this was like 3 years out of college. So I got frustrated and I had this like existential crisis of like, what am I doing with my life? So that was the first time that I felt suicidal. And this was very, very similar to that, where I was like, oh, I guess again, so I worked really hard to get here and this is not worth it. So I guess this is the end. And the reason I brought up the first time, I'm sorry, guys, I'm all over the place. But the reason I brought up the first time is because when I was driving, and I'm sorry, I hope this isn't triggering for anybody, but I was driving and I was thinking of ways that I could end my life in a way that would not hurt my loved ones. And at that moment, I was like, if I ever climb out of this, I would love to make sure nobody ever got to the point that I am right now. I don't think I'll ever get out of it because I feel like this is an endless pit of awful. But if I ever do, I would love to be able to make sure that people know what to do when they feel like this. And I do feel like I got there, guys. I feel like I'm in a place like through SPSM, a huge through SPSM chat, understanding that suicidality, while not an ideal state of mind, is rather more common than we think. And these thoughts are okay. They're scary. They're not good for you, but they're okay. And so, yeah, I said my answer was all over the place. So that's that. But long story short, I wanted to die because I wasn't happy at my job. And I felt like my career was the thing that defined me. And without my career, what did I present to the world if I wasn't a project manager or an editor? Nothing. That's what I thought. So that's where I was.
What say you, Joelle?
How can being overworked lead to suicidal intensity? I mean, like has been said, we don't always realize we're being overworked. We just think we're pushing towards a goal, and that's sometimes hard to differentiate between. For me, if I am working very hard but not seeing any reward from it, but I know I'm working, I will just keep working harder and harder and harder. And that means that like it's the moving goalpost thing, where I think, okay, if I do this, this rating for a week, like I'm talking about being cashier, but if I do this rating for a week consistently, then I'm gonna get like some kind of appreciation from the people around me. And I don't, and I'm like, okay, well, obviously I have to do this other thing. And, it can make you then not being able to pay attention to what's going on inside of you. It stresses your resources, so your physical, mental, cognitive resources, and then that diminishes your self-awareness, like Hudson was talking about, until you come to this point where you're like, nothing is changing. Nothing's going to change. Like the goalposts keep moving. Is that how everything is going to be? Like, not just work. And, you know, measuring myself by other people's concepts of productivity has always been incredibly detrimental. It doesn't play on my strengths because I'm supposed to do things one way, or I'm not being productive, but it's just eating me up inside. Like, and when we are physically exhausted, also we can't think straighter. So if we know we have mental health issues, or that we're susceptible to stress or things like that, we cannot then engage these coping skills and these ways that we would maybe normally deal with regular stress. So if we're constantly being pushed to the max, those coping skills they can't be tapped.
Hudson?
Yeah, I mean, building off of what I said before, but I think, you know, you, Joelle, and Rudy, you both knew me in the before time. And like, I look back before now, like I look back at what led up to last April and May. And I think it was as close to a complete break as I've ever felt. Like, I mean, reality didn't feel real. There was, I mean, just a clusterfuckery amount of other drama and things going on personally and familially, and loss and whatnot. And everything was poured into what I was trying to work, and it was a Sisyphean task. There was never going to be a win until, you know, I never understood what's the adage, the only way to win is to not play the game. And I remember the first night after I quit, how I slept, and it was so much better. I woke up almost like crying, because it was just like, and it wasn't even that great of a sleep, but it was so much better than what I had. And then now I've been doing consulting now for the past 11 months or so. And then I just started full time working with San Diego County. I guess now it's been 4 weeks ago. So it was like 10 or 11 months. And like, it didn't, I mean, I worked, I still did a lot of projects, but it wasn't that full-time thing. And it really was, it's as close as I ever got. And it was, that work was just that constant grind where there was never any lift. There was never any out. Yeah, it's a terrible place to be.
Well, this is certainly not a terrible place to be. Right here on SPSM Chat, and I'm so glad. I'm gonna channel all of my mushiness to Hudson for tonight, and just say that you are the most amazing person that I know, not named Joelle Marie.
Oh, well, I love you too, Rudy.
I don't know. Does Anna May count as a person? We've talked about this before, Joelle.
Yeah.
Okay,
you can leave her. You can bequeath your estate upon your demise to her. So sure, it's called a person.
I didn't know I can queef. Let's get to some Facebook comments. I want to make sure. Great comments from Tabitha. I know there's some other Facebook comments as well, Joelle. Do you see anything on my page that is worth paying attention to?
Yeah, are we able to pop them up or no?
No, StreamYard is having issues. They already notified me of it, so it's not going to happen tonight.
Okay.
But if you see anything that's worth reading out, let me know.
Yeah, actually, I'm sorry, I had to go over here. So Dia Argue Nurse commented, that changes in productivity and effectiveness is often not recognized as burnout, but the response or the approach to deal with it is discipline. So, we get punished at work for being burned out because our productivity is going down. And then that makes us want to push harder. And
it's such bullshit.
It is bullshit.
Because they're not getting anything better out of you. Like, you're not actually a better employee in any shape or form.
They literally, it's programmed into us to not trust ourselves and how good we are at what we do. Because
Yes.
if it doesn't take the amount of time that they say of 40, 50, 60, 70 hours a week, we haven't done enough. It's
yeah. The 4-hour work week is a real thing though. Like it's called, it's called 4-hour work day or
day.
Yeah.
It's probably day.
No, it's a real, because the actual productiveness, if you sat down end to end, you are productive for 4 hours. Your brain cannot do more than that. Like, that is not, you're not special. Like, you got it figured out. And these people aren't overworked, but these people are overworked, but you're fine. Like, none of that. Your brain can only do so much at a time. And I don't think I've ever, I hope my boss isn't watching, but I don't think I've ever been productive for longer than 4 hours at a time. At least, like, in a week, I might have like a few days where I'm like, okay, 8-hour like productivity nonstop, forget that I need to go to the bathroom. But that doesn't last. That doesn't last. And when you start feeling tired, you make more mistakes. And when you make more mistakes, you're reprimanded. It's what Joelle was saying. And when you're reprimanded, you feel like you're a fuck up. And when you're a fuck up, you got to fix it. And if you have to, and it's just never ending.
Speaking of fuck up, let's get to our question number 3. And that is, what role does our capitalist society have on making people value productivity so much? Let's go back to Marie.
I haven't talked enough.
I'm just kidding.
I asked you to take the word capitalism out. I demand a refund.
Oh, I said capitalist.
Yeah.
I seriously must have missed that email, so I apologize.
He doesn't actually apologize.
No, he's not. No, but it's fine. Now you guys know my cards, because I had created that question originally, or in like together. No, I'm not like some filthy commie. It's a matter of, I really genuinely believe that because we feel that time is money, so that would mean that X amount of time spent on something means X amount of time of productivity, and that's not true. Every moment you spend on something is not a productive moment. It's just time you get to bill against the client. Yeah.
You have to be productive every minute.
Every minute. But the thing is, and then how we understand what productivity is. So like going outside and taking a break is productive, because then you come back and you have a new mindset and you are refreshed and you can work harder, actually, right? Going to pee, like there were times, and there still have been, where I've been like, I just got to finish this thing. I won't even like go to the bathroom because I have to finish this thought, this idea, and then I'm going to get up to pee. But like, if I get a UTI, I know this is going to get weird.
Wow.
If I get a UTI and I literally have to miss work, like how productive, how helpful is that? So it's more productive for me to go and freaking pee and not hold it in, because holding it in is terrible. I know that that's like a really drastic example and maybe only pertains to like one per type of, I don't know. But my point being, productivity is a concept that is incorrectly valued. I'm looking for a word. Defined. Okay. Yep. I got it. Next, over to you, Rudy.
Well, over to Joelle.
Okay. There you go.
Hi. What role does our society have on making people value productivity so much?
Late capitalist.
You're fine, Joel. Just don't.
I know. So, I mean, just the idea of being poor, having to stress about money is like, it's a constant stressor, and it's not just stress. It is over time. It has the same results as trauma. And it reduces people's cognitive abilities. It reduces people's physical health, just constantly being stressed about money. And I obviously have to post my source on the blog, but I will. So just constantly being stressed about money affects more than what you can actually buy or what you're spending your money on. It can affect your relationships. It can affect everything. They affect how you function, how you think, how you breathe, how you sleep. So can you pop the question back up?
Oh, absolutely.
I just okay, great. So there's this constant fear of not earning enough that is related to stress and anxiety and survival in a society such as ours. I'm losing my train of thought. But so when you're constantly afraid that you're going to lose your job if you're not seen as productive enough, it doesn't even matter if you're actually productive. You just have to play the game, like Hudson was saying, and appear to be productive.
Yeah.
So like I've had jobs where we have to look like we're busy.
Right.
And that uses more of my personal resources, that heightens your anxiety, because what if you don't look busy enough or busy doing the right thing because you don't have an actual end goal? You don't have something you have to get done. You don't have a goal. Like, you just have to look busy. You have to look a certain way. And it's constant stress. So, I mean, when we talk about productivity, so many people think about like how many products we can produce. So are we doing 40 hours of work rather than this value of just what we get done? I hope that's making sense.
Speaking of making sense, Hudson.
Yes. I mean, everything that you guys said. What I'd like to add to this is with my consulting clients, I stopped doing billable hours because it made me want to vomit repeatedly. And I moved to what I call value-based billing. And I would build a project with a client, really understand what they wanted to do, and then we'd agree upon a value. And so it wasn't, the hourly churn. And I did that when I worked in the law firm. We've all done it. But it shifted my mindset around how I conceptualized like what I was doing. And sometimes I worked more, sometimes I worked less, but like it was a really big step for me professionally to know that if I come into an organization and I'm saying, they're wanting to take X to, market or whatever, that I won't bill them hourly. And I've had clients like push back and I say, look, this is how I know what the value of what I'm doing is, and it has nothing to do with how many hours I'm going to spend on it. I lost some clients, if I'm going to be perfectly honest. But the ones that I got, I love. And I still have them and still work with them and still talk to them constantly. So, I mean, I think the connections there are obvious. But that was really one of the ways that I, launched, I guess, my third professional mountain into what I'm doing now of design, was I wanted to do value-based. It didn't matter how much time I spent on it, because sometimes it takes me a short amount of time, sometimes it's a lot, but it helps me kind of shift that. The last thing I would say is just that Mxiety brings the light every time she streams. Her flute ball slobbers over that light, twinkle. She set some ambitious goals for her stream, and I'm amazed and excited that she's starting to achieve them. She's amazing, and she'll never get all the credit that she deserves, but we're going to try anyway. But capitalism is bad, okay? Like.
Okay, so let's.
You've helped all of us. We love you so much. We're proud of you.
Although I'm this close to crying. Please don't make me cry.
Hey, you came to the right place.
Where's my
book? I did want to say something about what Hudson's saying about doing billable hours, versus like value-based billing. And I'm actually working on something right now where I decide I usually would say in the past, it would take however many hours, so I charge this per hour. But I decided to do it as a project base, like the final product, the end product, like as we agree upon it will be this much. And I feel so much relief over that. And I really think like that's how I'm gonna go now. Like it just so happens I'm doing this now. But there's definitely a huge difference. And that way I have the flexibility to actually get a final product or a goal accomplished in a way that serves everyone, including myself, rather than filling up hours and making up shit. not actually making up shit, but like being overly perfect about how much time I'm spending. Is each hour like valuable? Should I bill for this? Should I bill for that? I was brainstorming for a half hour. Is that billable? I don't know. So things really, and it's just like, yeah. And that introduces all this stress related to like, look busy. But when you can determine your own goals and like your own end point, I feel like a lot of the stress is taken off because you're productive however you need to be.
You're front loading your value. You're saying, this is what it's worth. This project, what you're going to get at the end of this, I know I am Joelle of the Fire Hair Clan. It's worth this. Like that's what it is. Because if you think about like most contracts, like I always think of this when I work with my clients, I want to be on the same side of the table as them. I don't want to be on opposite sides. When you're like, this is what I want to do, and this is how many hours it's going to take and all this stuff, they're like, meh. But if you're like, hey, we both want to get this thing done. Yeah. This is how much I know it's worth. How much do you think it's worth? Okay, here it is. You're both negotiating from the same side of the table. Then you're putting it forward.
Speaking of worth it, let's get to some comments, and then we'll get to our fourth and final question of the evening. Salty Meg says some commies are quite clean. I have no comment. Tabitha says employee analytics are going to push more people faster to their breaking points. Imani, one of our social work friends, says money, money, money. People don't take care of themselves in order to be productive. Imani goes on to say productivity isn't just working. Self-care is important. Tabitha says that's why there's a focus on impact and not output. People are looking for more meaningful outcomes. Salty Meg says you just have to accept the compliment, Marie. So Tabitha has another great comment. People need to take the time off they need. We pay for it, LTD, STD, whatever. Many of us opt in. Take it. That's what it is there for. So many people do not or don't even know what it's available. And yes, they treat their employees like the robots or replaceable. Do we have any comments on Mixer, Marie?
We had an argument about plutocracy versus capitalism, which I'm sorry I started.
I started that.
Oh, and then some compliments, and I'm totally not on the verge of crying, so we're fine.
Okay, so let's just get right into question number 4. Why is the need to be quote unquote perfect so detrimental to our mental health? Take it away, Marie Shanley AKA Mxiety.
So there's this notion that, again, I don't have to necessarily be working, but if Jen shows up to work and she works 45 hours a week and I show up to work and I only do my 40, when it comes time to promotion, the bosses are going to be like, wow, Jen sure did so much work because she stayed those extra hours. Whether or not she was productive doesn't matter. She was in front of their faces. So we end up having these like unrealistic expectations of what we are supposed to be presenting to other people. That's not necessarily tied to reality as much as it's tied to this, again, like social notion that we have, right, of what productivity represents. And I can't count, just kind of going back to the previous question, I can't count the amount of times that I've called myself a piece of trash for sitting on the couch and watching a movie instead of doing one of the 4 jobs that I currently hold. Like, how dare I? And so that's another notion of perfectionism, that like, if I'm not working 24/7, if I'm taking 8 hours to sleep, people get into comparison games of like, oh, well, I only slept for 6 hours. Oh, wow, last night, yeah, we went out and then I only slept for 4 hours. Like, it's like a freaking trophy to not sleep, to not take care of yourself. And so you have this idea of like, not only do I not sleep and I have to tell people that I don't sleep X amount of time, I also have to then come into work looking perfectly polished and clean, because in front of the clients, I can't look like a slob because they don't know that they need to see that I am, not only am I, working all these hours, but I'm also taking care of myself. And God forbid, like, some people are also parents or have any interest outside of work and stuff like that. Like, all of that, you have to be doing perfectly all the time, because if you're not, what are you doing here? What are you trying to present? What is this for? You showing that you're like a screw up? Well, everybody's a screw up. We need perfect. And that has been something that was reinforced in me for years and years and years and years that I had to knock out of myself after, again, going back to question one, burning the heck out. So I believe that perfectionism, I think some of us suffer from it more than others in terms of like how hard we are on ourselves for messing up. But we also live in a society that says if you mess up, you are worthless, right? People get fired for screwing up. There are companies that get noticed in the news because they have like failure walls and stuff where they encourage people to fail and then write about their failure because here's what I learned about it. But they're few and far between. That's why they're on the news. Yeah.
And is it any wonder that the United States, wait, put up the talking heads thing, the Brady Bunch. Okay. What percentage of the world's entire cocaine supply do you think the United States consumes?
Is it more than essential oils?
More. Yes, way more.
Is this a Celebrity Squares kind of situation?
Well, because if you think about everything you just described, how do they get what people will turn to things to get them through? So
yeah,
this closest without going over, I'd say 88%.
Really? Are you talking about people in the workforce? Are you talking about people in the workforce?
The entire world, all the cocaine.
All the cocaine.
From Djibouti to Arkansas.
Well, I have no knowledge of what you're asking, so I'm just using the information that I have in my head that I have experienced. I'm going to say 88%.
Okay, Marie?
At least 42.
Oh, ooh, bold. I like that. It is the answer to everything. Rudy?
43.
I actually didn't do that on purpose, but
Rudy is the winner at 80%, the closest without going over. 80% of the world's cocaine consumption is in the United States.
I like how I said 88 and somebody was like, really?
That's because you took away this punchline. 80%, but that's what happens in those environments, Marie. Like if you think about like everything you just described, and we all know people. Like when I worked in DC, holy mother, like that's what they did. It's just, so that's what happens. People get pushed to substances to try and survive and keep going.
Speaking of Holy Mother, let's go to Joelle with question number 4.
Hi,
she is our Holy Mother.
Why is the need to be perfect so detrimental to our mental health? Okay, I'm going to try to make sense when I'm saying this. So the idea of being perfect is like something that is, once we reach this point of where somebody is perfect, it's an agreement for a bunch of people. And it's where we all overlap and agree, okay, this thing is perfect. But we're watering down what we all individually value and consider effective and productive and what would be a good outcome and how to get there. And so by doing that, we lose all the individuality. We lose any option to be strengths-based, which is, if you're not focusing on weaknesses, but focusing on strengths, it increases resiliency and it increases diversity of thought. And it also increases creativity. So that's going to help with coping skills. And that's been my experience. And that is often the thing that I run into because I'm a peer specialist. And a lot of the ways that we support people or support them in working through things are not quote unquote traditional. You have to think out of the box and you have to value diversity of thought. So, but like nobody's going to be perfect. And if you try to be perfect, you're not learning from anything you fuck up, like was said. You're not growing. We don't get anything new. And we feel mundane and devalued. Speaking
of growing, let's go to Hudson.
Thank you, Rudy. I want to yes and off of what Joelle said. There's the idea that like we strive for perfection is a method of I know. There's I got it. Thank you. That we strive for perfection as a method of work is like it's asinine. Like when I work. So in the DSM-V4, 5. Are we up to 5? I think we're at 5.
We're at 5.
It's this idea that what we're trying to do is be perfect on the first time out of the gate. And like whenever I work with my clients and I do design, like I really work through this whole design process of divergent thinking to convergent thinking. And what you're really trying to do is build a fail fast and fail forward model. But we as a culture don't support that. And I've had a couple of clients that have implemented it and implemented it really well. And the results are absolutely astounding. There's either like, two things. Either you're at a Microsoft or a Google and your resources are unlimited, or you're in an environment where you have to be scrappy and you have very precious resources. Guess which one makes better designs? 100% of the time. That scrappy resource where they have to build, prototype, iterate, and fail will almost always produce a better and high quality and quicker result that's more on point with the design than the unlimited research design labs. And like even the unlimited research design labs are now making up and creating resource and time limitations and scarcity to prompt better development and better creativity. So yeah, I mean, I think to me, like every time I talk to my clients, I'm like, look, we're going to fail. We're going to mess this up. But that's a good thing. That's how we learn and that's how we get better. That's how I approach it. Fuck perfectionism.
I agree. Now before we get into final thoughts, let's get into some last minute questions. Imani again, bringing the fire, says, oh, you already said that. Okay. Well, you brought the fire already and you're fire nonstop. You're a social work student, so you're already on track to doing great things. Tabitha Jones says that's why there is a focus on impact and not output. People are looking for more meaningful outcomes.
Preach, Tabitha.
Yes. Okay. So
big pharma wins.
Oh yes. So Joelle, we had some comments on my Facebook page too. Dea says may certainly vary with. Do you know what reference this question was? Was this in question number 2 or anything?
I don't remember. I think it's talking about how can be overworked.
Okay, so she says it varies with one's profession / role at work. IT versus school teacher versus McDonald's clerk versus nurse, etc. And Kevitz Marks says this relates to class issues. Can you go into any detail of what Kevitz meant by that? I hate to put you on the spot, Joelle, but I figured like you would know.
I can't speak for Kevix, but I mean,
totally.
But I mean, I noticed that, and that's a point. So as you are paid more, you are given more freedom and more room to just get done what you think needs to get done instead of doing it a certain way. And it does relate to cross issues. Like it relates to you get paid more, you're thought to be capable of having that independent thought and making those decisions on how to get something done. You're paid less, like you're a cashier. There's a certain way to get things done, and that's supposed to be more productive. And maybe like in the short term, it makes things faster. But for example, at Target, everyone is trained on cash register, every single person. And that makes sense, like kind of, because you want to always be able to call people up to run the cash register if you have long lines. But what if the person is really anxious and isn't good at the cash register and constantly screws up and then isn't good at like figuring out change that they missed? Then it's just going to cause aggravation. They're going to feel stressed. They're going to do worse at their job that's supposed to be on the floor. So I don't know where I was going with this. But
no, that's a brilliant point. Yeah.
But I mean, and I've seen this, like I'm really fast at the cash register and I can handle like when I screw up at it, just be like, oh, ha, 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 I screwed up. Oh, well. But like some people can't. And that actually makes the experience of going to the store and being a customer really fucking frustrating. And it makes it not as good of an experience. So what is the end goal here? Just to look busy. And it's bullshit. And this doesn't usually happen as much in higher paying jobs because people are given more responsibility and more ability to do what they feel they need to get done. Now, that doesn't always happen, but typically when you get paid more, you're thought to be smarter.
No, I'm glad we brought up class issues. Go ahead, Hudson.
So one of the things that I work with my clients when we do like high performance for teams and stuff is that we have this tendency as a culture that we promote people out of the jobs they're good at. So like, I'm really good at this thing and I'm really good at it and I'm the best. And you're like, you know what you're going to do? Not the thing you're good at. You're now going to run a bunch of people that are kind of okay at it.
Right. Oh my God. Not everybody is a good boss.
I had a client, I built one just before the COVID thing and I called it the high performer pipeline. And it let people that were really good at one aspect of their job have an entirely independent promotion track and an entirely different path where they could focus and specialize in the knowledge or in the topic or in the relationships or whatever it was that made them good. So it basically created like a subject matter expert within a social service organization where they didn't have to go and like manage a bunch of people, which they were terrible at. Like, I mean, so it was like, it really is this idea that like, whenever I talk with people, whether it's clients or, you know, in business, I always talk about like, are the right people in the job? And like, everybody knows the right people that are in the right jobs. The people that aren't in the right jobs, people also know. And so it's one of those things of like, for me, it's like that. I hate the phrase because it's just like, but like setting people up for success because it's just overused and bullshit. But like the truth is like the people that are really good at what they do, don't make them like, if they don't want more, don't punish them for that. Because like, I know, like, especially in clinical settings, really slamming clinical talent can outproduce somebody who's new or meh by like 2 or 3 to 1. And so like that high performer pipeline where people can be really good at what they do without being forced onto things they don't want is really critical to me.
Okay, let's get into final thoughts. Let's go with Joelle. Are you ready to do final thoughts? And we'll go to Hudson and then Marie.
Yeah, sure. So I think, you know, with the class issue and with perfectionism at work, all this thing. So I'm trying to be succinct, but I can't be. I mean, I'm kind of going off the last thing about perfectionism and mental health. If you are lower in the rankings and you get paid, you know, like $8, $9 an hour, you're going to feel like you have to be this perfect cog to be able to get anything done. You don't have independence. You don't have freedom. You don't have the ability to make decisions for yourself. And that actually directly ties into the ideas that I use for recovery. When you have recovery, when you're in recovery or you're able to embrace recovery or have those opportunities, you have voice choice. You have the ability to say what you want and what's good for you. You have the ability to make your own goals and find the way to get there. And so if we're putting like the majority of people in positions where they are not able to make choices, where they are not able to be valued for those choices, we're making them sick. We're making people feel like shit. That's it.
And while we have you here, Joelle, what can we expect some fire content from you for Mental Health Awareness Month in May?
Yeah, maybe. I don't give a shit. Like,
Oh
I'm not, I don't feel like being polite and nicey nice this month, just so everybody knows. Like, I did, you know, I was nice-ish last month because we have a pandemic. But every year I'm like, oh, I should write this thing and it has to be perfect and it has to be perfect. And it has to like say the right thing and blah, 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 blah. No, I've used the mute button so much this year and it's really a great function. But I don't have to be polite about bullshit. So I'm not going to be. Hi.
Speaking of using the mute button, let's go to Hudson.
Hamlet. Who's muted?
Oh my God, mute.
I want my children with scissors on the bed for no reason.
Okay.
Marie, I'm going to miss you so much. I think that you're so good and I want to come on your show. Can you interview me?
Sure, Hamlet.
Oh. He got very excited about that. Just my final thoughts on this. Take care of yourself. You're the only one that can at the end of the day. The burnout is real. And I can guarantee if the question is even like, do I? Yes, you do. That's it. You have to figure out the ways to do the things that are going to make you feel better, even if they don't right away. And that's the hardest part. Really likes Clover.
And while we still have you here, Hudson Harris, I just wanted to ask you, have you saved San Diego at this point yet?
Not yet. I'm trying, you know. I'm the population health strategist for behavioral health services, which is pretty exciting. And we're working on some pretty amazing stuff. So,
are you the one responsible for the beaches opening up?
Yeah, that was all me. Well, It was me.
All right, so that's going to do it. Thank you so much, Marie Shanley, who's going to give it her final thoughts. I totally forgot about you. I'm an asshole.
I don't want to give my final thoughts because I'm going to burst into tears. Thank you, you guys, for this opportunity, for hanging in there with me. Thank you so much, Danielle, Joelle Marie, Hudson, and Rudy. Thank you so much for believing that my voice was important enough, that it means a lot. And you guys are going to continue kicking butt and being amazing. And thank you also. No thank you to my brain, who is currently telling me, oh, great, you're going to just sit around and do nothing with this time. And huge thanks to Hudson, Rudy, Joelle, and Danielle, who at one point or another have told me that's okay. Take care of yourselves, guys.
And how can people stay in touch with you?
Everything and anything that I have done is on Mxiety.com, Mxiety.com. You can also check me out on Twitter, same username. And definitely catch me on Mixer. On Wednesdays, we're going to be doing yoga classes throughout the end of this month. I also have, it is a very strange pressure that I should be doing something, even though realistically, I understand that as an advocate, I'm always doing something. But yeah, so I'm sure you'll see something. So definitely check me out on Twitter and definitely check me out on Mixer if you have a moment, and be part of an amazing community. I promise you won't regret it.
All right. So again, I promised that I wouldn't make a big deal about you leaving, so I'm not. I just want to thank you. Sure, Hudson. I have no say over anyone in this group, so please.
I just want you to know, Marie, how amazing you are and how much you've helped me. And being in your Discord and getting to know you over this past year has just been one of the most blessed things. Your experience and willingness to share what you went through at work really helped me at the exact moment when all of my shit was going. So thank you.
Thank you all. I appreciate you. Next week, our guest is Mariangelo Abeo from Faces of Fortitude. We're talking about gender and sexuality diversity and how that relates to suicide, because this is still the Suicide Prevention social media chat, I am told. I tell myself every morning. So that's going to do it for this Sunday. I appreciate you all out there in social media land. Twitter.com/SPSM Chat. Make sure to follow us at SPSM Chat if you haven't already. Facebook.com/SPSM Chat. YouTube.com/SPSM Chat. Mixer.com/SPSM Chat, where we will definitely continue streaming at as well.
Did you say SPSM Chat?
Chat?
SPSM Chat.
Yes.
SPSM Chat. Okay.
Yes. Okay. Yes. And so, and I've gotten better about updating the website, so I'll put this post up soon, hopefully tonight. Go to spsmchat.com so you can see all past shows in blog form as well. I'm talking everything. It just goes on and on and on. But if you were asking me, I'd say just start at last August and you'll be good to go from then on. Until next week. You know what? Since this is Marie's last show, I'll let her sign us off.
Keep your piggies close. And if you feel like the world is dark and nobody can give you the love and the care that you deserve, go out there and be an example and be that light to others. Be the light.